Hi, this will be the September 2020 tarot reading for the sign of Taurus. Uh, First card just popped out. Okay, in the present position, your first card, this is going to be a Celtic cross reading, which means there are 11 cards on the table that represent certain things, different energies or points in time or situations or circumstances that, yeah, that may go on in your life. Um, anyway, the first card is the Three of Swords, the which is the significator, which signifies where you're at right now. Um, and the second card is the Five of Cups, which is what the energy surrounding you right now. And the third card is the Four of Cups, which is the energies that are crossing you right now. And the fourth card is the Three of Cups, which is the foundation of the reading right now. And the fifth card is the Queen of Cups, which is what's behind you. And the sixth card is the Moon, which is an energy or an archetype that could happen but may not. It's what crowns you. And the seventh card is the Hermit, which is the seventh card is an energy that's gonna, or an archetype or pattern or circumstance that's gonna come into happening to somewhere around the middle of the month. It's the near future rather than the far future. And the eighth card is the King of Swords, which is how you should present yourself during this month. And the ninth card is the King of Wands, which is how other people see you. And the 10th card is the Queen of Wands, which is your fears regarding the situation. And the 11th card is the Knight of Wands, which is the final outcome of September 2020. Anyway, just for a few clarifications, this reading, it's for Tauruses, as in Taurus Sun, Taurus Moon, Taurus Rising, part of fortune in Taurus, and also perhaps for people with um, other planets in Taurus, and yeah. And moreover, this is a collective reading rather than an individual reading. As such, not every not every insight that's in this reading is applied to every Taurus, because it just can't. There are too many of them on this planet. So take what resonates and leave the rest, essentially. For some people, a lot of it's going to resonate, and for some people, only maybe a little bit will resonate, and for other people, maybe like around uh, like a more middle amount would resonate, like half of it or something like that, right? So it just depends on it just depends on the individual. So if nothing here resonates, then try one of your other signs, like your sun, moon, or rising, or part of fortune signs. And if those don't resonate either, then there are lots of other great YouTube readers, tarot readers as well. So yeah. But yeah, these videos, they're pretty good for developing your intuition, because they allow you to basically look at the various things that the reader's telling you, and you can say, well, okay, this applies to me, this applies, and this is true, right? But I don't think that is, and that isn't either, So watching these videos is actually pretty good practice for your intuition, even though like it may seem counterintuitive, because it seems like there's another person that's doing all the work for you. But the reality is, everyone who watches these videos, they have to pick and choose, the things that they know to be true in the reading, which ones there's like not sure about, or which things there's like, no, that's not true. So yeah, this is pretty good practice for intuition. And the astro dice, the astrological influence for the month of September 2020 is the North Node in Scorpio in the 6th house. Well, what that indicates is that the North Node primarily represents fated connections, and these could be connections with other people, or they could be circumstances that seem fated, that just that wind up being pivotal in a person's life. So with that being said, it's in the sign of Scorpio, and Scorpio is the sign of the occult. It's the sign of extreme, intense emotions. It's a sign of intensity. It's a sign of it's a martial sign. So it's a sign that it's also a sign that represents death and endings. So it's a sign that so the North Node in here in the 6th house would indicate potential fated connections with people that are Scorpio-like in nature. So intense, extremely emotional, but outwardly they seem even unemotional or cold, but inwardly they're extremely emotional. Encounters with occult type people, like wizards and stuff like that, pagans, stuff like that. They could belong to whatever religion, Moreover, Scorpio is a sign of Mars. It's actually Mars' strongest sign out of any of the signs possible. So Scorpio it's an extremely martial sign as well. So it could mean encounters, fated encounters, meetings with martial type people, which means people in the military, people in the police, people in uh, perhaps doctors, like surgeons and stuff like that. Um, uh, Security guards, um, field medics, entrepreneurs. Sorry. Um, and the sixth house is the house of work. So the North Node in Scorpio in the sixth house, it means that there's a higher likelihood of fated connections in one's work environment, um, and or fated circumstances in the person's work environment. As well, this house also represents it represents the sixth, various day-to-day activities as well, such as uh, showering, brushing your teeth, daily routine activities. And also, it's a house that represents health. So it can represent fated connections or fating circumstances in like the medical profession as well. Like say meeting someone at a hospital, right? Or meeting someone at a doctor's office when you're there for an appointment. Um, uh, Finding a good doctor, a good healthcare practitioner, right? In any kind of healthcare location, like could be physiotherapy, it could be a doctor, it could be hospital, any kind of routine healthcare facility. It's more likely to find like fated connections or fated circumstances to help to, well, fated connections or fated circumstances in these areas. And regarding the types of people I previously mentioned, like healthcare practitioners, uh, military, police, security, stuff like that, any kind of martial profession, athletes, yeah, as well. Um, yeah, because athletes would be martial as well. Um, so yeah, that's what the astrological influences are for September. For the tarot reading, what we have here is for the first card for Taurus for September 2020, we have the Three of Swords. And the first card in the Celtic cross represents where you're at right now. And again, like I said, this isn't going to completely resonate for every Taurus, yeah? So, take what resonates and leave the rest. But this is collectively like where a fair portion of you are, essentially. Um, but in the first position, we have the Three of Swords. Three of Swords, it's a pretty, it's not the most positive looking card. It isn't the most positive card, that's for sure. What this represents is that going into September for Tauruses, um, you're entering the month in a period of heartbreak or sadness after having given up something, or about to give up something, or sacrificing something because it's necessary. This could be a relationship. This could be something, some factor in the person's life, something in their life, circumstance, a material possession. It could be a health issue. Yeah, it could take a lot of different manifestations. But essentially what this indicates is that going into September, or during the month of September, during the month of September as well, there's going to be a feeling of heartbreak and sadness over something that's lost. And that's essentially like the broad general theme of things. The theme of disappointment. And what we have here for the second card is the Five of Cups for Taurus for September 2020. And this card represents the energies that are surrounding you during this month. And again, this isn't the most positive looking card. It isn't. This indicates that the energy surrounding you during September of 2020, there's an air of disappointment and sadness over things that are lost. You see, if you look at this card, there's a figure here. He's dressed in black, and and the sky is all gray, and the buildings are off in the distance across water, right? And he has these 5 cups surrounding him, and he has 2 cups that are full, right? And but their 3 cups are they've fallen over and they're spilled. So liquid inside of them, it's gone. And he's looking at the 3 cups and he's really disappointed and sad, right? But the thing is that there's 2 cups behind him, and he's not looking at those. So what this means is that, again, this adds to the first delineation of the first card, where an air of sadness and disappointment over things that are lost or things that are about to be lost is an energy that's in the air for Tauruses in September 2020. It's a feeling that a lot of people feel. I guess, an important insight to remember about that is the symbolism of this card, the surrounding card, the energy surrounding during the month of September 2020. Because if you see, like I said, 3 of his cups are gone. They've spilled, right? But he has 2 behind him, but he's not looking at them. So, there's a factor here of, there's loss, but there's also a factor of, not having gratitude for what remains, So it may be an idea to remember to, even if there are losses or things that have to be given up, or sacrificed, or whatever, lost, or, or people, or circumstances or things in your life, that to not lose sight of what remains, because there's still gifts that you have that, you may not be noticing, that still remain, And it's important to notice that, because I don't know, there's a quote by, I think by Epictetus, Epictetus, a Stoic philosopher. He said that it's the foolish man who cries about things or whines about, don't quote me on this, I'm not going to get it perfectly. It's the foolish man who cries or whines, I can't remember the terminology they used, complains about the things he doesn't have. But it's the wise man who is grateful for the gifts that he has been given. So with that being said, it's sometimes easy for people like to lose hope after losses or setbacks or uh, various um, obstacles or penalties in one's life. But the reality is, yeah, but the reality is that a lot of people, they'll focus so much on what was lost instead of recognizing and being grateful for what they have or what they still have. you know so it's important to keep that in mind, because like, oh yeah, this is what I was gonna say. Jeez. um, I was gonna go on something regarding Epictetus. And what that is that I lost my train of thought for a second there. What that is, I'm not used to doing these collective readings, um, but it's fun. But anyway, plus the intuitive mind, it's a muscle that's worked out during something like this. So yeah, I'm just starting here. But anyway, the example that I was going to make was from Epictetus again, who's one of the great Stoic philosophers, one of the great philosophers of all time. It's that he was born a slave, and he was born disabled. And he said that. He said, it's the foolish man that complains about what he doesn't have, and it's the wise man who is grateful for the things he does have. Or he's no, it was something. I think I gave it closer. I think it was it's the foolish man who um, complains and is not and is angry over the things that he doesn't have, but is ungrateful for all the gifts that he has been given. Right? That was roughly the quote. But it's interesting, if you think about it. Like I said, he was a slave and he was born disabled, right? He was disabled. So yet he actually came up in the world. He gained a lot of respect, in this life, and he became known as a very wise person. You know, and you'd think someone from that background who came from nothing, right? Especially in those days, right? Because being born a slave back then was certainly harder than it would be for even people disadvantaged today. So back then it was a lot harder, right? So um, for him to have that belief and that view, considering the really hard circumstances that he grew up in, right? That's pretty impressive. And it was probably that mentality that allowed him to accomplish such great things. You know. And why he was able to raise his station in his life, right? Anyway, um, the card, the third card, which is the card that's crossing Tauruses in September 2020, is the Four of Cups. And once again, this adds to the meaning of the first two cards. It's basically the first three cards of this reading are all saying the same thing, is that there are losses in this month, but there's an overall theme as well as not really not having enough gratitude for the gifts that have been given, and for what the person, what you know, what you Tauruses still have, or what you Tauruses have. You know, so there's a sense of loss, and there's a sense of loss, but there's also a sense of like what these cards are telling me is that there's a sense of like ingratitude for the gifts that you already have, right? Like if you look at this card here, the Four of Cups, it looks, see this guy, he's sitting there, right, under a tree, and he has 3 cups in front of him, and they're filled up, right? They're not spilled. And then he's sitting down, and his arms are crossed, which indicates that he's not receptive to anything new coming into his life, really. That's what that indicates. Having your arms crossed, it represents non-receptivity to whatever's new. Like if you talk to a person, if you cross your arms when you're around them, that's a pretty good indicator that you don't like the other person, right? So that's why that indicates that, or partial reason. It's a physiological response by human beings that's kind of it's hardwired into us, and it represents basically the same thing across the board, no matter what human basically does it. More so, it's an ingrained, inherent subconscious or reflexive response, But yeah, this adds to the general theme of the first 2 cards, is that there's a cup here that's being offered to the person, right? And he's not receiving it, he's not taking it. It's just coming out of the air, right? And he has his arms crossed, so he's just not taking it. He's being offered a gift from the universe, right? But he has his 3 cups in front of him. But he's being offered another one. So he could have 4 cups, right? But he has 3. Yeah. But he's being offered by the universe another gift. But he has his arms crossed. He's not taking it. So that's an indication that, there may be an offer, or there may be something offered that could help you during September 2020. It could it could help. It could be a gain, or it could be something that reduces a loss. So either way, it's something that that would be useful. So it may be an idea during September to look at what's being offered, and to evaluate it realistically, and to take a look at it. And not necessarily to throw the baby out with the bathwater, I guess. If that's, I don't know if that's the best saying, but I don't know, whatever. But it's okay, I guess. But yeah, it's just, there's a message of evaluating the gifts, or the opportunities that are being offered, because they could help. They could help you either with a gain. Like I said, they could help you gain something, or they could help reduce a loss. So yeah, either way, like, it's something to look at. I guess keep an open mind would be a decent, keep an open mind towards, opportunities and stuff like that would be a decent catchphrase. Yeah. Anyway, for the foundation card, which is card number 4, which is the foundation of the matter. It's the foundation energies, or foundation archetypes. Anyway, this is card number 4, foundation of the matter during September 2020. And this is the 3 of Cups. And it's a positive card. It's a good card. It's, yeah. Well, this indicates in the foundation is that it would be a good idea to behave in a friendly manner towards the people that you interact with and the people around you during September 2020. Um, yeah, it's basically the advice. This is one of the advice cards, one of the cards that basically dictates, that gives you, well, it gives indications on, ways that you should act or ways that you should behave or, modes of action and all that during this month to be successful or to make the most of it. Because the reality is in any given, stretch in life, any given period, we can, whether it's a bad period or whether it's a good period or whether it's, somewhere in between, you know, the reality is that across the board in all of these situations, no matter whether it's a good period or a bad period or a medium period, right, in life, the reality is that no matter what, based on the choices that we make, we can make a bad period not quite as bad, you know, or we can make a good period not quite as good, you know, based on the choices that we make, right? Even if everything's lined up, you know. So, you know, circumstances and luck and all, destiny, the universe, God, all that stuff, right? All that stuff could be lined up. You could have, you could have like, you could have trump cards and aces across the board, right? For a month or a year or whatever, right? Or given this period of time, right? Well, the reality is that even in those circumstances, a lot of those opportunities could be squandered. And the person, I guess that would be like theoretically a great period, right? Based on like the luck involved and all the opportunities, right? But the reality is that um, when a lot of people get those periods, they'll squander a lot of the opportunities. And the period may still be, better than average, right? Just because everything was lined up, right? Everything just came together, right? Without really a lot of effort on the part of the person experiencing it. It was just, call it fate or call it, you know, call it good karma or call it, act of God or whatever you want to call it. It doesn't matter. Call it a random, circumstance that just, appears really lucky, but it's just, a bunch of random crap happening, if you're an atheist or whatever, okay, or if you have, that kind of belief, But regardless of what you believe, there's periods like that, right, for people. And, so like I said, there's a lot of, people that get those kind of periods and they'll squander a lot of the potentials that were inherent within that period, right? Um, so, um, now I'm not saying that this is a great period or that this is even a good period or if this is, I'm not saying it's necessarily terrible period either, but it's, somewhere in between probably. It might be one of the not so great months, but it's, but the reality is that, based on, the choices that you make and how you act, and how you treat others, it could be a better time than it would be otherwise, So, what this card indicates, Three of Cups in the foundation, it's a card of friendship. If you see, there's three people holding cups together here, and they're all, toasting to each other, and all that. And their arms are interconnected, which means that they're, well, it's indication that, they're interdependent, they're a community or they're a group with some common goal, right? Their arms interconnected like that. So that indicates that, with the people around you and the people in your, like, the people in your community, the people in your household, people in your work, the people around you in general, your friends, your family, your acquaintances, all that stuff. To be a good idea, to treat them with respect and kindness, and to not be an asshole to them, right? Essentially, yeah. It's the message of this card is that during this month of September 2020, Taurus, um, you're gonna get further, you're gonna get better results with honey than you will with vinegar with people, and your circumstances and whatever negotiations or consultations or interactions that you have. So try to treat everyone well. Anyway, what's behind you in the month of September 2020 is the Queen of Cups. What this indicates, well, obviously, this is card number 5. What this indicates, it's energies that are behind you going into September 2020, or an archetype that's behind you going into September 2020. And the Queen of Cups here, this indicates that going into September of 2020, in the past, you were very sensitive. You're highly sensitive. And it looks like my intuition's telling me that based on this combination of cards, with those 3 cards in the first 3 cards, like those cards that represent disappointment and non-gratitude for the gifts that one has in spite of the losses, yeah? And those cards do indicate loss, right? So what this indicates is that the losses or the disappointments or the heartbreaks they're experienced during this month, it could be as a result of extreme sensitivity in the past or oversensitivity that perhaps led to actions or choices that were based on emotion rather than logic. But the good news is, with the Queen of Cups in the past position, that indicates that is an energy, that is an archetype, oversensitivity that's present, that's created the present circumstances, or at least fed into the present circumstances of disappointment and loss, grief, and stuff like that. But since it's in the past position, this indicates that a new start can be made this month, to where you can get that sensitivity more in check, so you're less, so that you're less, so that you're less likely to make, impulsive or misguided decisions. So this indicates that in the past, that this month, you have an opportunity to make more rational decisions and to make more make more rational and more pragmatic decisions. Yeah, and that could help with limiting losses to at least some extent, and also to perhaps maximize any potential gains, as well, or to explore opportunities as well too. So it's important. Another theme, another Another piece of advice for this month is to think logically and rationally rather than based on emotion. Um, and to think things over like clearly, and to examine like any potential blind spots in decision-making processes that may have affected them in the past, and to try to take those blind spots out of the equation for decisions this month in the future. You know. Anyway, in the seventh, no, this is the, let's see, no, this is the sixth card. This is the moon we have in the sixth card. The sixth card is what crowns you during September of 2020 for Taurus. This is the moon. It's one of the trump cards. Card number 6, what crowns you, is it's a card that represents an energy or an archetype or a situation of some sort that could manifest, that could happen during this month, but may not. It's something that's kind of up in the air, a potential that's that may or may not be. It depends on the situation. It depends on the choices that you make, essentially, rather than any like fated, thing like that. This one, it's more of a free will thing. So the moon in the crowning position, this indicates that this month could be a month where there's a lot of confusion and fear for Tauruses in 2020 in September. This could be a month where there's a lot of confusion and fear and a lack of direction and a lack of certainty or clarity on what to do or where to go next. So, if the previous stuff I talked about, resonates for you, then it may be an idea, to consider the advice I gave to kind of, to add a bit more clarity to this month. And clarity is something that this card doesn't really represent very well. It's basically an unclarity card, a lack of clarity card, right? So this card could also represent that, that, it's the darkest before the dawn, right? So it could mean, that this is a final testing period where at the end of it, if, you do well and pass the tests, that, a new start or, at least better circumstances than there are now this month could happen, in the near future, in like October, once this month is over, right? So it could mean that this is like a final transition, towards something a bit better or not as bad, And card number 7, which is the near future, which represents roughly the middle of September. What's going to happen then? This is the Hermit. And this card, this card, it represents a lot of things. A lot of people think that this card actually represents like solitude and, being a hermit, right, and stuff like that, right? But actually, as a symbol, it actually represents more than anything wisdom. finding your own inner light. If you see like this card in here, the character that's depicted in this card, he's an older man and he has a staff, and he has his little lamp in front of him, right? There's a star inside of it, right? And he's looking downwards. It's a card that if you see the lamp that he's holding in front of himself, it's guiding him. It's the star inside of it. It's providing him light. So essentially, he's a guy that's, he's found this inner light inside of him, and this guiding light and wisdom that he's following, towards whatever it is he's seeking. So for Tauruses in September 2020, it could mean that, well, it could obviously mean that, in the middle of the month, by then, there could be a time of withdrawal, and going within, basically searching for answers inside of yourself rather than looking for answers in the external world or through other people, right? It very well could indicate a time of withdrawal, of seclusion, of rest, of meditation, or thinking and contemplation, solitude, things like that, right? And seeking for answers inside of yourself. And it could also mean as well, like the gaining of wisdom as well, and the gaining of knowledge of, past actions and circumstances that, give you a guiding light going forward, that maybe allow you to make, adjustments, that can help you, So it's not a bad card for the near future. Anyway, it could also indicate, for Tauruses during September of 2020, it could also indicate an older person coming in or being more prominent in the person's life in the middle of the month of September. It could indicate, an older person becoming more prominent or entering the person's life around the middle of September for Tauruses. The Hermit could indicate that as well. Because the Hermit is one of the few cards that depicts an older person in the tarot. And it's one of the few that depicts an older person as like the singular character in the card. I think the only other one is the Emperor, and the Emperor is sometimes younger in other decks, but in this one, the Rider deck, he's an older person too. But anyway, yeah, those are just possible manifestations I talked about. Like I said, all of them, they may not resonate for every Taurus, and for some of you, all of them may resonate, all those circumstances and potentials I talked about. So it just depends on how much it resonates for you. But anyway, this is card number 8. It's the King of Swords. Card number 8, and also beyond that, if for Tauruses out there, if anything, if nothing of what I'm saying resonates for you, then try one of your other signs, like for your Sun, Moon, or Rising, or part of Fortune. Or moreover, you could also try other tarot readers on YouTube. There are lots of great ones too. So, yeah. Yeah, this is card number 8. This is the King of Swords, and card number 8 represents it represents a way that the person should act and behave during this month. So the King of Swords here, the King of Swords represents a mature person who is intelligent, who's um, someone who may be like asocial as well to at least some extent. Um, Someone who may be deemed as cold and detached, um, but highly logical and highly fairly intelligent. Yeah, intelligent for sure. They're intelligent. And there's someone that, they're very cutting. They can be very cutting with their words. They're very cutting with their thinking processes. They like to cut away basically what's unnecessary in their life, or what's unnecessary for ideas, or concepts that they're thinking about. Right? They'll cut away the things that they deem to be false, or the things that they deem to be useless or inconsequential, and leave the things that remain, which they deem to be um, relevant. Yeah, relevant. That's the right word. Um, so, like I said earlier, it's a good idea. It'd be a good idea this month to try to think more rationally, because in the past, it seems like heightened sensitivity may have led to the losses that are going to occur this month, or probably going to occur this month, or in the process of occurring. Um, so, like I said before, it's a good idea to act more rationally and act more objectively, because those feelings of those emotions could have led to the circumstances they're happening now, or they're about to happen, right? So this card, it does represent logic and rationality and objectivity. So it also represents, basically this is the card of the Vulcan, from Star Trek, how like they're actually Vulcans. A lot of people think, that don't know Star Trek, but I know Star Trek. Oh, I know Star Trek. I watch most all of the series, except for the new ones, really. I only watched like part of Enterprise, but all the other series I watched like most all of the episodes from them. Um, and yeah, I am proud of that. So yeah, essentially Vulcans. A lot of people that don't really know Star Trek, they think that Vulcans have no emotions. Actually, Vulcans in Star Trek, they're way more emotional than humans are. Their emotions are like twice as strong as a human's. What they do is that they train themselves mentally to think logically and rationally rather than emotionally. It's not that they don't feel emotions. It's not that they don't have emotions. Their emotions are way more intense than the humans is in general, right? As a species, but they've quieted those animal instincts inside of them through meditation and thinking and thought processes, and attitudes and behaviors that they've built up over time, mental training essentially, that they've done. So essentially what this card indicates is that for September, it'd be a good idea to think more rationally and logically about things rather than emotionally. And I said that earlier based on the other cards. So this card just adds to that piece of advice. So that's another motto for this month. Think based on rationality and logic and objectivity rather than on emotion, and you'll get you better results, or at least results that aren't as bad, perhaps. Anyway, this is card number 9. Card number 9 represents how other people are going to see you during September 2020. And this is the King of Wands. So during September of 2020, Tauruses, you're likely going to be seen by others as someone in a position of authority or having some power. And people may see you as being influential as well. You know, also being the King of Wands, this could represent also that people see you as someone who's fiery, someone who's angry, someone who's aggressive, and someone who may be a bit too sure of themselves. It's complicated doing these things. I have to combine meanings of all these different cards and think about all the meanings of the other cards and how they add up together, and then blending it all together in my head, and then I'm waiting to see what comes up. But yeah, this could indicate that people see you as being too impulsive as well. And like I said, overly aggressive, controlling. Someone who's acting out of passion instead of logic. That's how other people could see you as well. Someone who's acting out of passion rather than logic. And that just, yeah, it adds to the general, that general piece of advice for this reading. That it'd be a good idea to think more of logic and objectivity and rationality rather than emotions or passion or impulsivity. It could also mean that people see you as having a bad temper. And yeah, in the month of September 2020, having and people seeing you as your temper dictating your circumstances or the situations that you're in. Or having caused it, those situations. This is card number 10. This is the card that represents what you're scared of during September 2020. And this is the Queen of Wands. So this could represent that during September of 2020, Taurus, that you're scared of your passions and your emotions and the mixture of those two things. You're scared of the effect that the combination or aggregate of your passions with your emotions, that you're scared of the effect that the combination of those two things could have in your life and your circumstances and situation. And based on the other cards in this reading, I'd say that's, that fear is, it's valid. So like I said, you want to think with logic and reason and objectivity this month rather than your emotions. Yeah, I'm getting that a fair bit. So that's the overarching message of this reading, actually, I'd say. Or one of them anyway. There's another theme of loss and disappointment. But those are the two main ones. For the final outcome, we have the Knight of Wands. So this would be around the end of September 2020. So, well, for one, that could indicate a move, because he's on a horse, right? Or a travel or a trip of some sort or a move. It could also mean a change of direction of some sort. It could mean getting bored or unsatisfied with one area of your life and moving on to a new direction and leaving, the past behind in that regard. It could represent having a few things on your burner, on your plate at once, and juggling a few things at that time, at the end of September. It indicates that by the end of the month, that you could very well are likely to feel more impulsive and more unsettled, or more more impulsive, more unsettled, more I don't know, more ADD-like in nature. I guess like that, kind of. To where you feel like you kind of have ADD. That's what I meant by that. To where you're easily distracted and you do one thing, you get bored of it, and then you want to do something else, like kind of unsettled and restless as well. Um, it could also represent, at the end of the month, a young person, entering your life, a younger person, or a person. Knight of Wands would represent a person roughly in their 20s or early 30s, somewhere around there, who's of a fire type nature. So a fire sign person like a Leo, Sagittarius, Aries person, being prominent in some way in your life, or pivotal, or influential in your life for some reason, or entering your life. Um, yeah, based off what I'm seeing here, um, there aren't any Pentacles cards in this reading today, which indicates that staying grounded and practical and pragmatic this month is important, because you may not be very grounded during this month. You may be actually quite ungrounded during this month, and you may not be thinking pragmatically or practically as you should be. So it'd be important to stay grounded, is what I'm saying. Like exercise, eat well, meditate, or do yoga or something. Like do something to stay in the material world here, in the physical world, right? There is quite a few Cups cards, and yeah, there are a couple Cups cards. No, there are more. There are 4 Cups cards. Yeah, that's quite a few. That's quite a few Cups. There are 2 Swords, and there are 3 Wands. Okay, yeah, so they're mostly Wands and Cups cards. So Wands represent fire, which represents like passion and intuition and energy, purpose, stuff like that. While the Cups cards represents water, which is emotions and feelings and intuitions and receptivity and unconscious reactions and desires, right? Whereas the fire cards, the Wands cards, would represent more so conscious desires. What this indicates is that emotions are going to be running high this month, very likely. Yeah, emotions are going to be running high, so remember that. Like I said before, it's better to think with logic and reason this month than it is with your emotions. So remember that emotions are going to be running high. So to keep that in mind, so that you don't let those emotions cause you to do something stupid, or do more things that are stupid, or to make a bad situation worse. Um, or to potentially, lose an opportunity or a chance to reduce losses or to mitigate it, at least somewhat, or yeah, or even potential gains if they should occur. Um, which who knows? It could. um, but that's generally not what I'm really seeing for this month for you. Um, um, there are a lot of court cards in this reading as well. A lot of court cards. The court cards, like, they primarily represent people, but they could also represent various circumstances and such as well. And what this indicates is that during the month of September, there's several queens involved. There are two queens involved. There are two kings. Yeah, there are two queens and two kings involved. What that indicates is that powerful people are going to be prominent, perhaps, in your life during this month, more so than usual. People of authority or wealth or in positions of leadership, and they may be more prominent, playing more of a more prominent role in your life this month than they usually are. And that they've noticed or are going to notice a combination of both, I'd say. In sense, it's a combination of both. That they've noticed and are going to know, they've already noticed how you behaved up until now, or how you've conducted yourselves in your life, and they're going to see as well during September. So you have a choice to make. You could, it's important to remember that you are being evaluated. Um, it looks that way anyway. Um, so to act with ethically and responsibly and morally and objectively and rationally, rather than based on you know um, fantasies or illusions or um, emotion you know emotions. um, it'd be an idea to act with fairness and compassion towards others, rather than blind grudges or um, speculation. And if you do that, then you'll be evaluated in a more favorable manner than you would be otherwise. Um, yeah. Um, uh, let's see. There's not a lot else here that I'm going to comment on. Um, one other thing is that there are only two trump cards in this whole reading. There are 11 cards in here. What that indicates is that things are up in the air this month as far as fate goes. So your choices are going to matter more. You know? So, yeah, there's not, there's more, this is more of a period where, you know, it's your actions and stuff that are going to determine things more so. But certainly based on several cards in the spread, there are actions that from the past that have led up to this, the negative circumstances that are pointed to in this month. So, you know, I guess the takeaway from that is that, you know, a bad situation could be made either not as bad, or it could be made worse. You know, based on how, you know, you treat others this month, and based on how you react to things, and how you evaluate the situations or opportunities that are presented to you. So yeah. Anyway, that's the end of the reading. Taurus. Yeah. Anyway, like I said, these are collective readings. They're general readings. So, you know, not everything could apply for every damn Taurus out there. And that's what every YouTube reader, tarot reader who does these collective readings says. And they say that for a reason. It's because, you know, there are too many damn people with like Taurus, you know, placements, right? Because if you think about it, sun, moon, or rising, or, you know, that's, you know, 3 different placements, right? So on average, there are 12 signs, right? So around roughly, you know, around, you know, less than 10% of people, around maybe 8% or so, are gonna have are gonna have uh, a Taurus sun. About roughly 8% of people, right? Because it's 1/12 of the population approximately. So, but if you put the moon in there, then, you know, 1/12 of people are going to have a Taurus moon. And then if you put the rising sign in there, 1/12 of people, so 8% again, are going to have a Taurus rising sign, right? So that means that, you know, there's a fair amount of people that are going to have either sun, moon, or rising sign or Taurus, and they're probably going to be like, um, you know, closer to around like a quarter of the population. You know, so there's a lot of you, right? So, yeah, not everything's going to resonate for every Taurus. It would be impossible to do that, you know, so um, it's a collective reading. So, you know, take what resonates and what doesn't, throw it away. And if you're interested in a personal reading, you can book one online. The information is in my YouTube channel, in the description of the video, and also on the homepage of my channel. And personal readings will be done via Skype, and I'll have my prices in there as well. And yeah, personal readings, they're a lot more specific for the person, obviously, because I'm doing a reading for like one person rather than like a huge group of collective people, you know. So there's definitely a lot more chance that the reading in a one-on-one setting would be a lot more. Well, a lot more of it would be bang on specific to your situation. But anyway, um, with that being said, you know, I'm pretty sure there's quite a few Tauruses out there that, you know, a lot of this is going to resonate to, you know, and conversely, there's could be some that, you know, not a lot does, and a lot of people in between, right? Somewhere in between. But either way, anyway, I hope this reading was useful for you, Taurus. But yeah, so uh, have a good September. And, yeah. like I said, I'll end this. I'm trying to end this on a more positive note, because it's not the most positive reading, but but the reality is, like I said earlier, like eh, it's important to have gratitude for the things that you have, and it's important to center yourself and to act reasonably and responsibly and logically, is to mitigate, you know, whatever losses that occur, and to be in a bit better position for the future, right? So yeah, that's like I said, I'll end this with that quote by Epictetus. He said, it's the foolish man who complains about what he doesn't have, while not recognizing all the gifts that he does have. You know, so might be something to think about. Anyway, yeah, have a good month.